Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokić. Who do you think's the best?
So how would these two stack up against the great centers from the past, Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell?
I don't think Russell even comes close.
How about Ali and Frazier, and what a rivalry they had?
I said to myself, yeah, you just wait until that fight come about, and then I'm going to show him what old smoke is made of.
Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer.
But you know there is a third player that needs to be in this conversation.
Tiger Woods. Who do you got? Who's the GOAT? Hi, everyone. I'm Greg Murphy.
And I'm Wes Hall. This is
Greatest Sports Legends Then and Now.
All right, Wes, you ready to jump in? Because this one's going to be good.
Look, not only am I ready, are you ready, my friend? This is about to go down. The theme of this episode, personal rivalries, and this is going to be epic. Let's start off NBA hoops, all right? I'm going to give you two big names.
Okay.
Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokić. Who do you think's the best?
All right, if I'm picking between the two of them, I'm going to have to go with Joel Embiid. First and foremost, just because of his physical presence. You're talking about a guy 7 foot, 280 pounds, but he's so athletic as well. The guy can shoot from the outside. He can dominate on the inside. He can hit his free throws as well. He's a guy that can kind of do it all. And so if I'm picking one, I'm picking him.
Joel's hanging out in the Eastern Conference. It's easy to work over there. When you talk about going out to the West Side, the guys with the trees get a little bit taller. The challenge is that much more difficult. You gotta go with the Joker here, man. Yes, a little bit softer around the edges, but he's a walking double-double, sometimes walking triple-double, and the way that he plays the game, he's impossible to guard. How many guys at that size, at around 6'11", 270 plus, can actually function as a pseudo point guard as well? So for me, it's simple. The Joker is the better of the two.
All right, so how would these two stack up against the great centers from the past? We're going to get to that in just a minute, but when you're talking about personal rivalries and you're thinking about the NBA, how about these two names? Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell.
100 points for Wilt Chamberlain.
Chamberlain had all the personal records, but Bill Russell had all the rings. You talk about personal rivalries, it was one of the best. And here was Wilt Chamberlain's opinion on that back on GSL back in the day.
Russell, as I said, had a lot of pluses going for him, because he had one job to do and one job only. I had several that I had to do. I had to score at times, to rebound, to play defense. And, I did it the best I could. I think that most of my teams did the best they could. I think the Boston teams were just better. The coaching was just better. So, therefore, they won the big ones.
Okay, so who do you think is better?
If you're going to look at the teams, yeah, you have to tip your cap to Bill Russell. But look at their numbers head-to-head. Wilt Chamberlain, he owned Bill Russell. I mean, you think about a guy who once averaged for one season over 50 points a game. If he's not dropping 50 that season, he's not keeping up with his average. He also averaged over 23 rebounds a game. We know about the 100-point game. The guy could do it all on the court. When you talk about individual players, nobody better than Wilt Chamberlain.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to remember, Wilt never got a chance to hang out in the jewelry store like Bill did. 11 championships in 13 seasons. That is unheard of and will never be replicated again. And think about it like this. Greatest shot blocker in NBA history. Greatest team player in NBA history.
I know, Bill Russell has the championships, but Wilt Chamberlain, he's got the stats.
Well, I guess that settles absolutely nothing.
Nope.
So let's hear from a couple of guys who actually were A, former players, and B, played against them both.
Well, Paul, when you talk about a great dynasty in basketball, you naturally think about the Boston Celtics because they won 9 straight championships. They won 11 out of 13 years. And I think all this can be attributed to one guy that caused this dynasty, a guy that revolutionized defense, offensive rebounding, defensive rebounding, and this guy's a bearded wonder, Bill Russell.
I think if I were starting a team of all of the players I've ever seen, I would have to start with Bill Russell. I've always felt that he was the greatest player that ever walked on the court. I thought he would be my #1 player.
I think that if you had to analyze all of the centers who have played the game before, as far as basketball skills are concerned, and there's never been anybody to accomplish what Wilt Chamberlain has accomplished, and he was an incredible human being, an incredible physical specimen, and a great athlete. And I don't think anybody will come along who will be able to match the records that Wilt has accomplished. He just never had the personnel like Bill Russell had to go along with him.
So opinion is split between these former NBA players, right? What do the protagonists have to say about it? Well, no surprise, they weren't shy on their GSL shows.
As they say in boxing, a worthy adversary.
What were his best qualities?
I don't know which was the best, his strength or his smarts, because he's equally adept at both. I thought he was a great player. Of course, I thought I was better.
The team was better, but it does not necessarily mean that one individual was better than the other. Oh no, I don't think as far as individual talent goes that Russell even comes close.
All right, I think we're at an impasse here, so that's when we bring in our trusty producer. Mark, what says you?
I go with Wilt. I don't think there's any question about it. Now, all respect in the world to Russell, but I think Wilt summed it up best. Wilt was the better player, but Russell's teams won more. And the way I like to settle this, if you look at an all-time draft, there's no way you're taking Russell before you're taking Wilt Chamberlain. And his 100-point record still standing today, that's nothing short of incredible.
He's wearing a Philly hat. Of course.
Hey.
Of course.
Man knows his stuff.
Whatever. That's home, Philly, love, whatever.
We're going to take this to the next level. We're going to see how these two great centers of all time would be stacking up against today's centers in the NBA.
One thing you got to do for me, just for me, you got to give me your all-time NBA team. Who would your center be? You're sitting next to him, brother. I love it. You might pick too. All right.
Welcome back to Greatest Sports Legends Then and Now. We are debating personal rivalries and actually having a conversation about two of the biggest dominating centers in NBA history, especially from the 60s, Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell. So I'm going to go ahead and put you on the spot here, Murph. How would these two dominant giants fare against the best centers of today's NBA?
Yeah, then and now. That's the question on this show. And I'll tell you what, I think they would do just fine. You stop to think about it. Wilt versus Embiid. I mean, I love Joel Embiid, and I love the way he plays. He does everything on the court well, but not as well as Wilt Chamberlain. Wilt was stronger, equally athletic, but the difference is Wilt back in 61-62, how about this? He averaged 48 minutes per game. How many minutes are in an NBA game? 48 minutes a game. You're lucky if Joel Embiid plays 60 out of 82 games a season. Then again, when you look at Jokić versus Wilt, it's really no contest. Better rebounder, better guy down in the post. When it's all said and done, give me Wilt every day of the week.
Okay, well, I'll take Wilt on that. I see what you're doing. But looking at Russell versus Embiid, easy work. He'd get in his head so fast, it'd be over with before halftime. So go ahead and sit him down. Then you're looking at Bill Russell versus the Joker. I got to take the bearded wonder on this one. I mean, you're talking about a guy who is the best defender in NBA history. If he actually played in today's NBA, Bill Russell would still dominate. He's like Rudy Gobert and Bam Adebayo, except way better.
That is who Bill Russell is. I won't agree with you that he's the best of all time. I'm giving that to Wilt. However, I think we do agree that they would do just fine in today's NBA.
There, we can agree.
All right, Wes, moving on in the personal rivalry department, I'm going to take us into a sport that's lost some of its luster over the last couple of years, and that is boxing. And two of the greatest of all time, how about Ali and Frazier? And what a rivalry they had. Ali, the charismatic guy, versus Frazier, the workmanlike guy. Well, Joe Frazier was on GSL back in 1978, and he did not take kindly to the ribbing that Ali gave him before their fight in Madison Square Garden.
He was trying to be the biggest man in the world, you know what I mean? And he had a lot of animosity in his heart, well, which I can't blame him. But the main thing about it, he said these things, but it didn't bother me because, number one, I know what I was put together with. I know what I was living for. I know what I was standing for, so it didn't bother me at all.
Joe, Super Fight 1. Relive the fight and tell me what it was like getting into it.
I had that particular time laying in the room and going through a few things, you know, and you see the guy on the tube, you know, and he's running his mouth, and I said to myself, yeah, you just wait until that fight come about, and then I'm going to show him what Old Smokey is made out.
Well, there you have it. As they say, no love lost. And the second fight, well, that one was really close, and Joe and some experts think he won it.
Well, look at that third fight now. It was over because Joe didn't come out of the corner into the 14th round. But who is the greater fighter? In my mind, it's kind of a toss-up. I'm going with Ali because his style translates and can go up against anybody, including George Foreman, whereas Joe almost got his head knocked off by George.
All right, but how would he have fared against a guy like Mike Tyson?
I mean, that whole rope-a-dope situation, Mike liked to get fights over with early. Ali would have just drug him into the 10th round like, no, you're going to come with me until this thing's over with. Same thing with Tyson Fury. He would have frustrated him as well. Overall, I'm sticking with the greatest of all time, Muhammad Ali.
When we come back, we go from the brute force of boxing to the so-called gentleman's game of golf.
Jack and I particularly would get so intent on playing against each other that someone else would go right by us and win the tournament.
Welcome back to Greatest Sports Legends Then and Now. Wes, we're going to talk about rivalries, personal rivalries. That's what we've been doing all show. Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, one of the great personal rivalries of all time. But let's fast forward a little bit. Greatest golfer in the last 20 years, Tiger Woods. No argument.
No question.
But if I make it the last 10 years, who you got?
That's a tough one. I'm probably torn between two guys. It's either Dustin Johnson or Rory McIlroy, and I'm probably going to go with McIlroy. Here's why. 5 years younger, twice as many majors, and he's supposed to be like the heir apparent to greatest ever. Sorry, when you got numbers like that, I'm going with McIlroy.
All right, here's the argument against that. McIlroy was a very short window where he won those championships. True. Dustin Johnson's had kind of steady success over the years. And you talk about older, not that much older, only 36 years old. Heck, Phil Mickelson didn't get his first major till he was 34, so that's not old in golf. So I think Dustin Johnson's a better player. Give me DJ. But let's talk about a personal rivalry, because there was a good one in the 20th century, Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer. And this from GSL in 1978, the legend of Arnold Palmer.
We played against each other, and we played probably harder against each other than we played against anyone else. And I can name lots of times when we were in situations where Jack and I particularly would get so intent on playing against each other that someone else would go right by us and win the tournament.
But you know there is a third player that needs to be in this conversation.
Who's that?
Gary Player.
Okay.
Won a career Grand Slam. Here he is on GSL back in 1987 discussing the three of them.
Arnold Palmer, you know, was there with those big, strong hands and didn't worry about style, had a fast swing, you know, he had the old flash follow through, you know. Jack Nicklaus was there with the big legs, and in those days he was very fat. I mean, you know, I made sure I paid for the breakfast and he for the dinners. Three completely different people and different in temperament and style, and they were great days. And, gee, Arnold Palmer, what a charismatic man. That man got out of bed and he had it.
So there you have it. Arnie was great. 60 PGA Tour victories in his career. Awesome. Gary Player, 9 majors, and a precursor to the modern player. You know, while the other golfers were eating and drinking and smoking their way around the course, not Player. He was a fitness freak, much like today's players. He's right up there in this discussion. But a cut above the rest is Jack Nicklaus. 73 victories on the PGA Tour, and you have those 18 major championships as well.
All right, so no one can argue that Jack was the man, all right? Fine, Jack is the man. But there's also no argument about Arnold Palmer being responsible for escorting golf into the modern era with pure charisma. Yes, there's a bit of a rivalry, but it is responsible for the growth of golf as a sport.
No doubt about it. Arnold Palmer was a great, huge personality in his day, but Jack Nicklaus, simply the better golfer.
When we come back, Jack versus Tiger. Who is the GOAT of golf?
The so-called experts said with your swing you couldn't make it.
No chance. No chance. You know, I've said that about some other guys. Nicklaus, I think, was one that I said it about.
You hit that right on the head, right?
Yeah.
Hit that nail
I
right
said,
on the
well,
head.
when I saw him, he didn't have a chance.
Murph, Jack Nicklaus won his first major, 1962 U.S. Open. Back then, the prize money, $1,400. Today, that purse, $2.2 million. So let's have a little fun. I got a little pop quiz. What's the average cost for a house in 1962?
$30,000.
Wow, that's ambitious. Let's go 12.5.
Wow.
And that would be like maybe not even a year's rent in a one-bedroom apartment in today's money. So, yeah, okay. How about this? Average income per year. What you got?
$22,000.
Man, I need to be your accountant and figure out where his money's coming from. 5.5.
Oh, not even close.
Is the average income. That puts you like 12K below the poverty line. Okay, another one. Let's keep this fun going. Average cost of a new car.
Based on the numbers, I'll say $6,000.
Man, you are just taking the over on all of this. 3.1K, all right? Today, that gets you a 2002 used Toyota Avalon.
That's what I drive.
Hey, look at that. See? Bringing it close to home. That's what we do here.
Times have changed, Wes.
Yes,
Times
yes, they
have changed. Well, we are talking legendary individual rivalries here on GSL, then and now. And I want to know, Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods. Who do you got? Who's the GOAT?
Wow, that one's difficult. Two extremely dominant guys, but I have to go with Tiger Woods on it. Wow. The numbers are ridiculous. Think about this, 82 PGA Tour wins, all right? 15 majors right behind Jack Nicklaus, and the only player with 4 consecutive major wins. I'm going with Eldridge.
Well, I'll tell you, if you're looking at numbers, the numbers might favor Jack. Because if you talk about just major wins, 18, that's 3 more than Tiger Woods had. 6 Masters wins, that's 1 more than Tiger had. And a longer period of dominance than Tiger had. Believe it or not, Jack was winning in 2 different decades. For Tiger, you know, he was kind of derailed in 2009 with some of his personal issues. Did come back and win a Masters, but ultimately, the length of the career, the dominance, favors Jack. But all that said, I agree with you.
I appreciate it, man. Look, Tiger's something special. I mean, think about the intangibles. Of course, we all love to get to the numbers, but think about the intangibles. He completely transformed the game of golf. Yes, he and Phil Mickelson used to go at it, but Phil was in second. Way in second. Like, Tiger dominated the entire field, charismatic as all get out. He brought people to the course, television ratings through the roof. There is only one Tiger Woods. That is why he is so great, and he made golf cool. Like, cool.
Yeah.
That's why Tiger Woods is the one for me.
All right, I agree with you. You know, Jack is right there. And the thing that we've learned on this show is some of the old guys we were talking about, the thens as compared to the nows, they could compete at this level. I mean, think about it. Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, Jack Nicklaus, Ali and Frazier. Sure, they could compete with today's athletes. So let me ask you, what makes them special? Why are they able to kind of transcend the decades and be able to compete in this era?
A commitment to excellence, a commitment to their craft, understanding the sacrifices that are necessary and committing to do those as well, being laser focused on the outcome that you want and be willing to put in the work to get to that point. That's what greatness is all about. It's not always the prettiest thing. It doesn't necessarily make everybody feel all fuzzy inside. But when it comes to championships and greatness, that's what the greats do.
All right, I would agree with you, and I'll add one additional thing. I think all of those guys that we're talking about, they hated to lose even more than they enjoyed winning. They hated to lose. That's what it's all about for those guys. And you know what? Gary Player understood that, and there's what he had to say about excellence.
What is it that makes a champion? There are many different ideas. Some people say determination, dedication, application, patience, fitness, strength of mind. You can go on forever, but I really believe, and the Chinese have a great saying. They say you've got to have the determination to succeed, but whilst in the process, one must be prepared to suffer. I've never seen anybody achieve greatness without suffering.
And on that inspirational note, we're going to call it a wrap.
It's Greatest Sports Legends Then and Now. For our producer, Mark Farzetta, and for Wes Hall, I'm Greg Murphy. And we'll see you next time.
This time, Will, I'm going to get you now. This time. I guess I didn't get you. No, you had me. You had me. Next basket gets free dinner. All right, you guys better make sure y'all get this on camera. Because I'm going to push him out.